it into one of our new reviews. This is actually a new release. We are getting ready to review the all hyped Shamshera. And for those of you that don't know, I'm actually based in Missouri right now in the United States. And Shamshera even hit a theater near me, which was very unexpected because recently I've been able to see some of these in my local theater. But the AMC offices, I guess, saw a promising demographic, promising hype for Shamshera in my area. There were 4 show times in the opening day. So unfortunately, I was not able to see what that turned out to be like because I was out with COVID over the weekend. However, we are blessed here with Mira, who was able to see it in my place. So I'm going to give this over to Mira. She has some wonderful thoughts on this movie. What did you think on the all-hyped Shamshera?
So, the all-hyped Shamshera turned out to be a damn squib. Let me just start with it. 30,000 feet over here. My question to Ranbir Kapoor is, okay, you're doing a movie after more than 4 years, right? Did you not read the script? I mean, did you not read the script? They spent so much time. Shamshera must have released over 300 to 400 theaters across America in places like Alabama and Tennessee, where I don't know how many, maybe 3 Indians live. But having said that, with all the release, all the theaters that Yash Raj Films had booked, had to distribute this movie on Friday, on Thursday night and Friday and Saturday, I literally went and checked every theater and they're practically empty. So I guess, guys, nobody really went. And they spent so much money with influencers. Influencers were trying to dance to get people to go watch this movie. But, bad on influencers, because when you put your name on something as influencers, you got to pretty much make sure that it's the right goods. And this just wasn't. And, well, again, the story of Shamshera is not that it lost the plot. It's just like, where was the plot? I'm trying to figure out the plot. So it's a historical fiction, and there's a voiceover that sets the context of the period in which the story is set, which is the second half of the 19th century. And it tells the story of a rebel and his tribe. The Khameran is a warrior tribe, and it assisted the Rajputs during the battle against the Mughals. And this is all fictional, all right? This Khameran tribe doesn't exist. This is historical fiction, and somebody really needs to think through the times, it's a period movie, so you got to think through a lot of things to create something of this sort. After the Rajputs were defeated, the Khamerans leave and try to settle in the city of Kaza. However, the residents of Kaza banish them because they think the Khamerans have a low caste status. So I was like, okay, interesting. They're going after the caste system. And lovely. I love to dwell more into how the caste system really makes life difficult. It does make the life difficult. But because of the caste system, what the Khamerans end up doing as Italian plunderers, and they make life hell for the rich residents of Gaza. Now, Shamshera, Ranbir Kapoor, is the leader of the tribe, and it's under his guidance that they become really notorious and dreaded. So the Kaza residents go to the British government and say, help us, get us out of this Khameran stuff. So there is an inspector, his name is Shuddh Singh, and that's Sanjay Dutt. He's given the job, get rid of these notorious people, do something. So they attack the Khamerans and almost defeat them. But Shamshera gives, Shuddh Singh actually ends up giving Shamshera an offer. He tells him, surrender, and in return, I'll allow the rest of the Khamerans to settle in a very faraway place, and you can actually work at regaining your lost glory. Shamshera agrees, trusts Shuddh Singh, but he and the rest of the tribals are then taken to this place, Kaza Fort, and Shuddh Singh actually ends up cheating them. And he imprisons all of them, and he tortures them. And Shamshera gets very angry with not only the British, but also Shuddh Singh because of that reason. And then Shuddh Singh gives him another offer. He says, if Khamerans are able to deduce 5,000 grams of gold, they'll be let off. So this time they actually even sign a deal to this effect. Sign an agreement in the late 19th century. Great. So Shamshera finds out that there is a secret tunnel in a pond which connects to the Azad River outside. So he tries to figure out a way to escape, and while escaping, he gets caught. So then he tells his wife that if he gets caught, she should just disown him and take the rest of the people and just move away, because this is the second time he's trusted the guy. And if this guy cheats him again or he gets caught doing something, then he doesn't want to be a liability to his people. So Khamerans, Shamshera is actually denounced as a coward because he's trying to run away and leave the tribe. So they really make his they spoil his name. So his pregnant wife gives birth to a son called Bali. Now Shamshera dies in this entire incident, and then all these years later, Bali is Shamshera, the same guy who played Shamshera again. So it's Ranbir Kapoor all over again. He has a double role as father and his son. Shamshera's wife gives birth to Bali, and 25 years later, Bali, who's a very carefree, nice looking guy, he has absolutely zero respect for his father because he's grown up hearing stories of what a coward his father was. So, and his mentor is a guy called Pir Baba, which is Ronit Roy, and he trains Bali for everything. And then Shuddh Singh starts humiliating Bali and his mother and telling them the truth about their father. So Bali decides to fulfill his father's wish, and he tries to escape from the Kaza Fort. And unlike his father, he's successful and manages to find a secret tunnel through which he escapes and reaches the city of Nadina. And what happens after this is the rest of the movie. So, Michael, we were talking about Shamshera, song from which you just heard. And, well, this is an extremely dated story, as we know. And the writers, the director is Karan Malhotra, and the writers are Ekta Pathak Malhotra and Karan Malhotra. And they've written the screenplay, but it's 2 hours and 38 minutes of, I was holding my head, asking, pleading my brain, listen, do not walk out. Please bear with me. Hopefully the rest of the movies this year won't be this bad.
Exactly. And with that, as we always say, we're here to watch these movies, so you don't have to. And with this being 2.5 hours, we want to definitely keep this brief. So what we have thought of is doing a rapid fire Q&A with Mira here as an audience member, so we can get the inside scoop on everything we're wanting to know. So, my first question is regarding Ranbir Kapoor. He's been a little bit since we've seen him acting in a movie, but we also know that he is in another very, very, very high budget movie coming out, Brahmastra. So what were your thoughts on Ranbir Kapoor in this movie? And do you think he could have maybe done a better job? Like, what are overall your thoughts, and what can we expect to see in some of his movies to come?
So I have to be very honest with you. I think Ranbir Kapoor is a pretty solid actor. He's really good. We've seen him over the years evolve himself into a very good actor. He is an excellent actor. His entire effort here is extremely sincere, but for some reason you just can't. It's just so unbelievable. The sets look like cardboard, and the VFX is terribly bad. Sometimes in the VFX, honestly, can figure out if the CGI was for a bird or a cow. Honestly, that kind of missing details, attention to details is so less that it completely killed the vibe. And we know he has a very big movie coming later, and hopefully that movie will have better VFX and better CGI. But this really disappointed.
So let's dig into that a little deeper. My next question is, when watching the trailers, the action effects and the CGI was pretty hyped when you watched the trailer. I know that I was excited just because I saw a lot of really cool scenes that I was wanting to see in the theater. However, it sounds like those didn't quite particularly land. How come those didn't land? And what was kind of overhyped and didn't really deliver?
I think some of the angles were overhyped, and I mean, looking at the trailer, it seemed like a very finesse, very somebody who knew how to do it had done it. I think what really didn't work was this entire the very substandard visual effects in CGI, very substandard. The fort, which is, the main plot of the where is the main set of the entire movie. It looked like a fabricated set. And there is this entire train sequence, which was so badly executed that I thought the train sequence in that other movie, what was it called, Radhesham, was a lot better. And I had an issue with that because the girl's skirt wouldn't flare in the air. Her hair would flare, but the skirt wouldn't. So honestly, that little attention to detail that makes scene look believable, even when we know that this is a lot of it is computer graphics, a lot of it is CGI, it's not done. But there were a lot of CGI and special effects used in something like Top Gun too, or every time we see Avengers or we see any of the Marvel movies. Come on, we just saw an entire series, Marvel, Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
So much of CGI was used. There was an entire train sequence of the Indian Pakistan partition. That recreation of that entire partition scene, none of that looked really CGI'd. It
Yeah.
looked real. So I think that is where this lacked. I think it just made it unbelievable.
Yep. Now let's talk about set and film location. So obviously this is I would call it a timepiece, but it's based on a fictional story and everything.
It's a dated story, yes.
Nonetheless, the kind of time it's trying to depict has to be done effectively. What are your thoughts on how it delivered on that?
It did not deliver on that. The clothes that Vani Kapoor, she doesn't have meat in her. I hate it when filmmakers put women into stories just for the heck of embellishing the story, which is exactly what Vani Kapoor did. She has several songs and she shows her body off, but the clothes that she wears are pretty. The material of the clothes is modern. It's not 19th century material. So I thought that was disingenuous right there. But then in the 19th century was also a printing press that produced a daily Hindi newspaper called Dainik Darpan, called Daily Mirror. And they kept the bad guys abreast of what's going on around them. But honestly, seriously, a printing press in the 19th century didn't happen. So there are things that just didn't gel well with the detailing of the movie that made me question as to why these things haven't been thought about in the first place. What I have to tell you I really liked about the movie was the music album. The music is by Mithun. And maybe when you're listening to them for the first time, the second time, it might not write on you, but after listening to them 2-3 times, it just settles in your head. And it really goes with the plot. It's well woven into the plot. I'm not a big fan of people breaking from the story and jumping into dance sequences, because that's what Bollywood is about. People, you take a break from the story and you're gone for a picnic and then there's a dance and song. Or it's a festival and there's a dance and song.
You're in
or somebody's
too,
sad and there's a song. Or
yeah.
and she's singing the song while crying because she's so sad. So all of that is very theatrical Bollywood. And here, a lot of that, which is so, it's so like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. You don't do that anymore. You have to make the soundtrack a part of the story. And that maybe some songs happen. The theme song is definitely something that I liked later.
Well, I know we were teased with some good dance videos too prior to this release, which we covered. So definitely make sure to be checking out our exclusives there. My last question for you, Em, before we break to another song is, and you were kind of touching on this earlier with Vani Kapoor. I know that we have a lot of other cast members out here, a lot of other supporting actors and actresses. What were your thoughts on their talent? And do you think overall, like, the kind of quality together, like, do you think the quality of the ensemble between writers, producers, directors, and the actors, actresses could have pulled off a really successful take of Shamshera? Like, it seemed that we had a lot of good talent on this film and it just didn't quite land.
You're right. Actually, some really good actors. Ranbir Kapoor being the primary one. Of course, he has a huge fan following in India and elsewhere as well. He is one of the hottest actors from Bollywood. But then Sanjay Dutt as Shuddh Singh, again, Sanjay Dutt does a variation of his earlier baddies that he's played. You know, he's played 2 or 3 baddies before, so he does like a he conjoins all their characters to create Shuddh Singh, which I thought he definitely wasn't written, and he might have just created the persona himself because he's kind of done that, and it's more believable for him to carry that on. But I thought that was pretty stereotypical. Women are not well utilized in the entire plot at all. They have nothing to do except everything. So I'm very distressed about that aspect. Again,
Yeah.
another movie where women are just showpieces. Not a really good feeling. On the whole, this movie is just not a home run. It's if you want to do historical projects, grandiose historical projects, indie filmmakers especially, you have to learn. You just don't go to Game of Thrones with substandard tools. So you
Yeah.
got to get the right people, maybe borrow technology from the right resources, from the right studios, and then create something grandiose. And spend this kind of time and money and creating something this big, which basically is done, I think, 20 crore. I don't know how much 20 crore is. Maybe 20 crores is what, $2 million of business
Yeah.
for 3 days now. So 2 days. So
Yeah.
which is very bad. It's badly failed, and they've had to retract a lot of theaters that didn't have any footfall. So a lot of theaters really pulled back on the shows because people didn't come out and watch it.
Well, I just gave a check earlier, and there still is a 9:15 screening in the town near me here in Missouri. So maybe they haven't pulled all screenings yet. Hopefully, they're hoping for a
A
big
good
turnout there.
idea for you would be to just log into your app and see how many
Yeah,
seats are taken.
yeah, that would be great to see. And
They'll tell you exactly how many people are interested, because
exactly.
the ones that I saw over the weekend across, I mean, most populated Indian cities with Indian Americans, New Jersey, New York, Chicago, Houston area here, and San Francisco Bay
Yeah,
Area. Honestly, they were like, some showtimes there were 5 people in the theater, some showtimes there were like one person.
yeah.
So I was the only person when I went. So hey,
Well, and hopefully this is a pivot point too for a film that's kind of trying to pull off what Shamshera did, but like kind of this like Game of Thrones-esque, feel. I think that could do very, very, very well in Bollywood if done well. And I think it could make for a good franchise. And I know that I'd be really excited to see that. But nonetheless, we're gonna wrap up this review.